Hey, it's Greg here from Kaliba today, and I'm joined with Brett Williams, who is the Senior Pre-Sales Engineer at Chainalysis. Great to see you again, Brett.
Yeah. Hello, Greg. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. So today I was just hoping to get into the mindset of a pre-sales professional like you with a few Q&As. And to kick off, I'd love to know a bit more about your journey into pre-sales and where you are today.
Yeah, sure. So I've been around in IT probably 28 years now. I started back in the 90s, so as a PC tech and network engineer, and done a few roles over those times, as you can imagine, in both private sector, education, and government. My journey into pre-sales started back in my Novell days. So I was a Novell field engineer out supporting customers on site, doing a lot of technical work and implementations, and had the opportunity to try my hand at pre-sales. I was sort of tapped on the shoulder by another pre-sales person at Novell, said, "Hey, I think you could be pretty good at pre-sales." And I didn't really even know what pre-sales was. This is 2006, and essentially, it means being technical, but going out and solving customer problems and presenting and what have you. And I said, "Oh, that sounds pretty cool." I was, you know, done a lot of work in the field, so maybe it was time to do a bit more with a sales focus. And
Yeah,
hence
nice.
where I am today.
Do you find that pre-sales often gets called different things? Like sales engineer, solution architect, solutions consultant. Like, how do you like best to be described?
Um, Look, it's evolving, right? I think pre-sales as a discipline is involved. When I first in pre-sales, it was a lot of technical architecture, implementation, understanding rollouts, because we were doing a lot of on-prem work, rolling out devices and servers. With cloud and more now recently software as a service and those type of things, it's less technical implementation, more consulting. So hence why I think we've seen the change. Some people don't like the term pre-sales, sales engineer, because it connotates that you're a salesperson, which technically you are, but ultimately you're a technical person helping people solve problems that happens to get compensated with some sales benefits. But ultimately, solutions architecture, I think, is where we've seen it evolve to, mainly
Mhm.
because we're architecting solutions for customers.
And it's that post-sale support, right? It's not just, here's a demo, would you like to buy it? Here's the business case.
Yeah, look, I think there's a definitely an overlap now into more post sales, not in the sense of tech support and supporting break fix type scenarios, but in the software as a service space, it's important that we keep customers engaged and using the platform and what have you. So naturally, you need to be taking the whole life cycle of the customer from the selling to making sure they're getting value out of that platform.
Yeah, nice. Um, we're often asked about how someone would get into pre-sales. I know you touched on your journey before, but what would be your advice?
Um, Look, it's pre-sales is technically no real different to being a consultant, right? Like there's very technical roles out there in IT or security, where I work in cyber and what have you, very hands-on, very getting very hands dirty in the technology bites and bits and what have you. But then there's also consulting roles where you're understanding problems, being able to articulate that with a customer, listen to their problems, take those and turn them into solutions. So pre-sales is really no different to being a consultant. The only real aspect is you're tending focusing on one solution or a product.
Mhm.
I'm part of a large global pre-sales community, and I see people in there who are doing pre-sales for selling widgets to truck manufacturers and aircraft and what have you. It's not just about IT. So it's about taking technical knowledge and helping a customer with a problem, and ultimately that may lead that they purchase a solution. So it's really, if you can get into sales, tech sales, by being a good problem solver, being an expert in some sort of area, but mainly it's about working with people, right? And to be honest, when I've done hiring for SEs, you tend to go and look for people with good industry experience, people who have got real hands-on experience. Not necessarily, you can always teach people technology. You can't necessarily teach them the skill sets of working with people, solving problems, presenting demonstrations and the like.
It's funny you say that, Brett, because I often find when I speak to, pre-sales guys and sales guys, sometimes the pre-sales guys are way more networked than the sales guys, because techies talk to techies, right?
Well, there's an aspect of all the pre-sales people I've worked with, and including myself, we care more about the problem and the technology and the tech and being passionate about that than actually selling, right? Selling just comes sort of naturally because selling is about trust. Doesn't matter what you sell. You go and walk into a shop that sells TVs. If you don't click with the salesperson trying to sell you that $4,000 TV or whatever it is, you're not going to buy it, right? So it's about building trust. And naturally, customers or prospects tend to be a little bit more cautious when someone is, I am the salesperson, because they think they're
Mm.
naturally motivated by making money, which to be honest, most of them are. But
Yeah.
yeah, trust comes, but it's also because we tend to be more passionate about getting involved in that area and the community and the tech that we see more as a peer, being seen more as a peer than less likely as a salesperson.
Yeah, I think that's important, right? You want to be the consultant as such, as opposed to the salesperson.
Yep.
Are there any transferable skill sets that someone could bring from another sector into a pre-sales role? I know you just touched on it briefly, but like, what would be valuable? You've just spoken, about communication skills and the ability to build rapport with people. But anything more, tangible in terms of a tech?
It's a difficult one in the sense of like one skill or two skills. I always look for passion, interest. Obviously communication's key. When I started in IT, like back in the day when I was learning to program and fix computers, there was I think we did one term of communication skills, which you got up and had to do a 5-minute presentation, and everyone was nervous. That's not enough, right? Like as you evolve in your career, and I've had a lot of different jobs over the years, I found being able to articulate and communicate and present both multiple levels for the organization is really important. So it doesn't matter where you come from. That's a skill set, right? Being a subject matter expert, building trust, working with people. Tech skills, of course, are important. If you haven't got a technical bent, if you don't play with tech, if your hobby's not having a lab at home, learning off, extracurricular sort of technical stuff, then that's going to be a problem. But ultimately, that doesn't mean you come from any industry with that sort of passion, right? And I think more recently, like I said at the start, as we've evolved to SaaS and cloud, the role is really about solution selling and consulting, less about speeds and feeds and technical deployments. Because let's be honest, if you're doing something up in the cloud, you don't really care what sits behind it. You just want to so you're really talking about outcomes. And I've sold Intel products where intelligence is all about knowledge and context and how do I apply that to my business. It's not really a technical sale, but it's still very much selling something.
Yeah, that's interesting. What has been the best investment you've made in your pre-sales career?
I'll probably break it down to two things, right? So firstly, I've had a lot of variety. I've worked everywhere from doing technical implementations to playing with hardware to do software, various aspects of cybersecurity from governance risk to, incident response, SOC, more recently threat intelligence and Intel. Now I'm in the blockchain forensics and attribution space. That's given me, I think by changing and trying different tech over the years has given you a broad set of knowledge, right? And it's experience, so you can sort of have a good wide breadth of knowledge. Look, I've done a heap of training, like most people do, training and certifications. But to me, networking and community is important. Like one of the challenges as a pre-sales person is you get further and further away from a day job. Like I came from a customer land. I used to work in banking and then went into vendor world. You get further and further away from the actual job itself. So by networking with people who are doing the job on a daily basis, going to community events, be it associations, like I go to ASA here, I go to Australian Computer Society, I'm part of B-Sides. There's a whole lot of communities you get involved in. You meet people who are doing the job, you can network with them, understand their problems, you get real world stories, and that's really valuable, right? Storytelling is a big important skill set, and connecting with them and asking those questions. So to me, the best investment you can make is your network, and building trust with those peers, because obviously they can be used later as you progress. You get a good reputation, people know you, they trust you. No one's
they bring you along to the next job.
Well, that's the other thing, and then also you never want one of those nervous situations. I've had SEs go into a meeting going, "Oh, XYZ is going to be in the man. Oh, I had a problem with them in my previous job, or I had, you don't want to have that sort of thing. So building really good networks and trust is I think, is the best investment you can make in a sales career, regardless whether you're the technical side of the sales or the commercial side of selling.
Okay, great. And who has been your biggest influence on your career?
That's a tough one. I don't think I could put it down to one person, or I'm not going to name anyone here to shame them and embarrass them. But look, when I started in pre-sales, there was no training course. Everything was on the job. And the only way you can do that is with really good mentors and peers and managers who are willing to, make a mistake. And I made a lot of mistakes, and I learned from those mistakes. You have to. That's how we grow. So, I learned a lot in the early days. So I had a really good mentor and manager in my early corporate and finance days where I was very technical, your typical admin guy, creating users, deploying hardware and software. But in that job, I had to step up and understand how to present business cases. I did large projects where I was presenting to C-levels of project and soft skills that I never really had. So I was forced into that. Not forced. I was taken on an optional journey into learning those skills. In terms of pre-sales, like I've had some today. And I think anyone I could really keep in contact today have had some sort of influence on my career.
Okay. And finally, Brett, if money was no obstacle, and obviously it's a lucrative profession that we're in, but what would you be doing?
Yeah, look, I had a thought about this, but my passion's always been aviation as a kid. I've always loved planes, right? I'm not a big car guy because I think planes go faster, which they do. So I started and have stopped and started and have stopped over the many years doing my private pilot license. Essentially work, doing some startup stuff in Asia, traveling, studies, all got in the way like life does, right? So
Yeah.
if I didn't have to work for any money, or I could work for a very little wage, I'd be working somewhere exotic in the world, flying around some cool locations, either as just a hobby, like
Yeah.
we see the van life guys on YouTube. If you're into those sort of things, I'd like to do that in an airplane, just fly around. Or more interesting is
Which
maybe
plane? Which plane?
I do Piper Warriors. I'm a Piper guy. If you want to get
You're
into
a Piper
Cessnas
guy?
versus
Okay.
Piper. um, or a tour and charter pilot if you had to take some money. So, because I love travel, travel's always, and look, as a tip for anyone in doing pre-sales, and particularly global vendors, you get to do a lot of travel. And I've had the privilege of traveling this planet essentially before COVID, through my company. So that got me a passion for travel. If I could do it on my own and control my own travel, I think that's the ultimate freedom.
Yeah, nice. Brett, thanks so much for joining me today. I'm sure your experience will prove valuable for those looking to develop a pre-sales career. So, yeah, mate, thanks for your time today.
No problems. Pleasure. Always.